Today, Echobatix will be interviewing Jerry Berrier. Jerry Berrier is one of Echobatix's advisors. So I'm Mia Correia. I'm the Marketing and Operations Director. Jerry, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Jerry Berrier. I am a retired Perkins employee and have done a number of other things during my lifetime. And I currently work a little bit for one-on-one with people who are deaf-blind to teach them to use technology.
Awesome. We really appreciate that. How did you first get involved with Echobatix?
I racked my brain on that question and I could not come up with an answer. I'm not sure exactly how I got involved, but
Mhm.
I know that I had met Gary Bartos at a couple of conferences and different places, and I think he told me about Echobatics, and I said, yes, count me in. So that's all I remember about it. It seems like it was a long time ago.
No worries. For those of you who don't know, Gary Bartis is our CEO and founder. Um, do you think, if you may or may not know, October is Blindness Awareness Month. So, do you think acceptance, equity, and stereotypes for people in the BVI community has changed from the time you were diagnosed until now? And do you think it's gotten better or worse, if so?
Well, I've been blind since birth. So I've been blind for 71 years. And I think it has gotten better in some ways. There certainly are a lot of people now who are relatively more educated when it comes to disabilities and how to appropriately interact with someone with a disability. But I still get the same kinds of things that have happened all my life occasionally. For example, just the other night, my wife and I were in a restaurant and I placed my order, she placed her order, and then the waitress said, "And would he like some water with that iced tea that he ordered?" And, you know, that I guess will never change until we are somehow able to simulate eye contact. But it was just one of those things. And I didn't make a big deal of it. I just answered the question. Yes, no, I would not care for a glass of water. But so I think things have changed to some extent. I really do. But there's a long way to go.
When situations like you just mentioned come up, do you typically like answer or does your wife answer or is it just like this awkward pause?
Sometimes there's an awkward pause and then I answer, depending on what kind of how I feel that day. But I do remember one particular occasion where my first wife, who I was married to for 42 years until her death, a waitress asked her, she took her order and then said, "And what would he like?" And my wife paused and said, "I have no idea." And I thought that was a perfect answer to that question. So we handle it the best we can. I try not to become defensive. I also don't expect that I'm going to be able to educate all people in the world and
Mhm.
have them treat me exactly as I think I should be treated. I recognize that everybody comes from a different place and a different set of experiences, and I accept that. But I do try and um, tactfully get the point across when I can that, you really can talk directly to me.
Yeah, I definitely get those experiences a lot, especially when I'm out like with my friends or my siblings. And sometimes I can get a little snippy. So it's very interesting to see how people react to it. um, what other pieces of technology do you want to see out there that could help you as a blind individual?
There are two potential pieces of technology in this world that would change my life drastically. One of them is an app that would be able to not only read the screen of an appliance with a touch screen, but also enable me to interact with multi-level menu capacitive screens, which are very difficult to interact with. So that's one thing.
Hmm.
But the thing I'm really excited about nowadays is a robotic guide dog, as they're calling it. It's an electronic device that can guide a person. I want that before I die. And I might as well throw in autonomous car also while I'm at it. So that's three things.
That's awesome. As a person who has a regular standard guide dog, I wonder how these robotic ones would do. And what's different about them and what would make them better or worse?
I don't know. I've also had two guide dogs in the past, and they're wonderful.
Yes,
But they do require a lot of work, as I'm sure you know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
um, because October is Blindness Awareness Month, what is one thing that you want people to know about the blind and visually impaired community?
Um, I want people to know, I don't know if I can nail it down to just one thing, but I'll try. I want
Many as
people
you
to
want.
know, okay. I really want people to know that we run the gambit just like everybody else. We are each individuals. You can't stereotype blind people any more than you can people who are French or African American or anything else. We are individuals. We each have our own sets of biases, try as we might not to have them. We have our own experiences, our own, depending on how we were treated as children, that can have an impact on what we're like as adults. There are many factors. But the one thing I think I would really like the world to know about me and you and all other people who are blind is that when you look at us, even though we may not be able to look back at you or smile at you without knowing that you're smiling at us, there's a person inside there. And if people
Yes.
can just remember that, I think that will go a long way toward enabling people to think through situations and think, okay, this is how I would like to be treated. So this is what I'm going to do. So instead of saying, would he like water along with his iced tea? That waitress would have thought about it and, thought, there's a person there. I can talk to him. Would you
Mhm.
like water with your iced tea? And so that's it. I want them to know that there is a person inside me, even if it doesn't appear that I'm making contact with you in any way. And I know that that is a big gap to bridge because human beings, like other animals, make visual contact long before they make audible contact or other kinds of contact, I think. So it's a tough one to teach people, but I think it's really important.
Absolutely. Um, this is a question I'm kind of throwing in off the spot, but what is one thing that annoys you about like awareness when it comes to like sighted people?
Um, I will say that as I have gotten older, I rarely get annoyed at other people for things that they do or say. I accept people and recognize that I'm not the center of the universe and
Yes.
that there's no particular reason why they should understand how I think I ought to be treated. So there is that. But you're asking, well, can you restate that question one more time?
Yeah, sure. So, what is something that like annoys you about sighted people when it comes to like the blind and visually impaired like awareness?
I think when I am treated like a child, that kind of annoys me.
Mhm.
It's been a long time since I was a child, although I'm sure my wife would probably tell you I still act like one sometimes, but that has nothing to do with being blind. I really wish people, well, I'll take it a little further. It annoys me when I am in crowded situations or among people who don't know me and no one comes up to me and says hello to me and tries to break the ice
Mhm.
when I'm not able to do it sometimes because I don't always know. Oh, and I'll say also that I wish people wouldn't leave the room right while I'm talking to them because
Yes.
that's sort of embarrassing to be talking and suddenly realize, hey, there's nobody here.
Done that a few times. Um, do you want to tell us about your diagnosis and like your background or
Sure. I am blind from what's now called retinopathy of prematurity, which is a situation that occurred back in the late 40s and early 50s. I was born in 52, and it had to do with oxygen that was used in the incubator with premature babies. And I'm a twin. My brother is not blind. He was not affected at all by the by the oxygen, but I was, and so I've been the closest I ever came to sight was I had light perception when I was a kid, up until I was a teenager, and then that eventually drifted away, and I eventually had to have both of my eyes removed for two different reasons, both of which related to when you have an organ that is not functioning, sometimes it tends to atrophy or things go wrong with it. The
Hmm.
body begins to reject it. So that's what caused my blindness. And I mean, other than being able to see light, which was actually very helpful. I don't have any concept of color. I was never able to see the shape of something, but I could see where the windows were if it was daytime. And I tended to bump into things a lot at night, even though I didn't during the day. And now I
Wow.
just bump into things all the time. So it's different without being able to see anything. So that's that.
Interesting. Um, what are some of your hobbies and interests?
Okay, let me just rephrase something. I really don't bump into things all the time. I shouldn't have said that.
No,
I
no, it's okay.
I sold myself short. In familiar surroundings, I almost never bump into anything. Um, I have so many hobbies. I could take up this whole interview talking about them. That's one thing I've never had a lack of. I'm a ham radio operator. I'm an audio enthusiast, and I've learned to edit audio and work with recorders and microphones and that sort of thing. Probably my greatest passion is birding by ear. That's birding, birding by ear, where for the last 45 or 50 years, I've been trying to learn birds by their sounds,
Mm,
and it's gotten me involved in lots of other peripheral things. I wrote my first website so that I could put some of my recordings that I had made on it. And so I learned HTML, and this interest in birding has spawned all kinds of different hobbies with me.
awesome. What's your favorite bird?
I have a few. I love the Baltimore Oriole. They have a beautiful sound, and to me, my spirit wakes up when I hear the first one in the spring. It's just such a wonderful, beautiful sound, and they signify that they've migrated a long way to get here, and they won't be here all that long, and then they go back where they came from. And then I start feeling that hope for the next year when I can hear them again. But I love even crows. I love listening to crows. And I've admitted sometimes, since I know this is just you and me, I can tell you that sometimes I feel like they're talking to me when they're flying above me and making their various
Oh,
sounds. And I
that's
haven't figured out what they're saying, but I just know they're talking to me.
that's absolutely beautiful.
Please don't let anybody know that.
You can take that out if you want.
No, that's okay.
Um, and my last question is, um, what have like you done like with your background? Like, you mentioned you've worked with, I think you said Perkins.
Yes, I worked my first job out of college was with an association for the blind in Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
I was their recreation director, and I loved that job. It was the lowest paying job I ever had.
Mm,
But other than that, I absolutely loved it. And I'd set up all kinds of programs, bowling tournaments and all night fishing once and lots of things.
wow.
I did that for 4 years, and then I got hired by what eventually became Verizon, and I was an employment interviewer for about 15 years with them. So I was in HR, and I worked as a career counselor, and then I worked in their center for customers with disabilities in Marlborough, Massachusetts, for my last 6 years with that company. And then I became an access technology trainer. I did that on my own for several years, and then I worked at Perkins, and my last position there was as director of access technology. So I dealt with all the adaptive equipment that was purchased for the students and the staff, and helped train people, and did a lot of things related to that. And I was there until 2020.
Wow. That's amazing. You've done a lot of different things.
Yep.
Um, do you have any last minute like thoughts or comments that you want to say to our viewers?
No, except that you're a good interviewer and you're very patient, and I hope you're a good editor. I'm sure you are. I think that's all. You don't have to
Trying.
take anything out that I said, though. Much of it was tongue in cheek, but I'm sure people will realize that.
You're very well spoken, so it doesn't seem like much would have to be taken out.
No,
Well, we do want to thank you for coming and interviewing with me and allowing us to record the interview. And for those of you who don't know, I'm going to mention once again, October is Blindness Awareness Month, so educate yourself on the blind and visually impaired community. You can ask us any questions that you would like to learn. Remember, blindness is a spectrum, so people can range from totally blind to have some sight, some light, some shadow perception, and even some very usable vision. So just remember, and blind and visually impaired people can do pretty much anything, have a bunch of different hobbies, and are regular people, just like Jerry had mentioned before. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
thank you. Thanks, Mia.